the DSC is to promote the new technologies, which is unfortunately not in the university curriculum, which is basically mostly from the Google technologies. And the second aim of the DSC is to the career building of the students. And our today's event is about the second aim, like it's about the public speaking, which is very important for the career of the students. And I am very glad to welcome our today's speaker, Dr. Uhi Maria. She is head of the Department of Management Sciences and associate professor in University of Debrecen. And I want to give my mic to her. I hope you will enjoy this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome to everybody. Good afternoon. I'm really glad to, I was glad to accept the invitation to give a speech about public speaking. So I will share a presentation. I try to do that. And I begin the speech. I'm not totally familiar with that system, but as we agreed, I give my speech, and then if you have questions, you can ask that, and I try to answer to your questions. So I hope you see. Do you see my presentation?
Ma'am, we can see it properly.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Since I already was introduced, I would like to begin my speech with a quotation. All the great speakers were bad speakers at first. It was Emerson in the 18th century who told that. Why we have to speak about public speaking? I think the objective of that occasion to give you practical recommendations how you can improve your skill, your competence, because in our life we very frequently are in a situation that we have to stand up in front of many people and share our ideas about a certain issue. So here you see the structure of my speech. First, I will tell a few words about generally about communication. Then I try to define what public speaking is, what kind of specialty it has comparing to other types of communication. And then I will speak about how we have to prepare, how we can deliver a speech. Generally speaking, the objective of communication is to be received. We would like others to hear me, or if we write something, to read what we wrote. But it is not enough. We would like to be understood. So it is generally in communication, it's important that the other people to whom we are communicating, he or she has to understood us. The next thing is that we also happy if they accept what we told or wrote. And in many cases, especially when we would like to influence others, when we would like to persuade others, we would like them to do actions, change their behavior, attitude about certain things.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt you. Can you make your presentation into presenter mode, because like we cannot see it properly.
Actually, just
there is an option of button PE. Just you have to click it. Yeah.
projecting. You can't see it perfectly.
Yeah, we can see it, but not perfectly.
What can I do? Okay. This way it is better, not really.
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay. Now I stop. I think I stop sharing it. So I would like to go back to here and share it again. Okay. Okay, so then I will use this this format. Maybe I can make it bigger. No, it's not good. It is good. Now it's okay.
I think it's better now.
It's better now. Okay. Sorry for that. Okay, so on the next slide, you see a general model of communication, the communication process. Normally, we have at least two players in a communication situation, a sender, a receiver. The sender send message to the receiver, or want to send a message to the receiver, and he or she has to encode the message. We can use our words to send a message. We can use nonverbal gestures. We can use body movements. We encode the message somehow, and through a channel, the receiver will get it, and he or she has to decode the message, translate it to himself herself. Very frequently, or almost always, we have some noise within communication. I'm almost sure that, for example, we use now the internet, and probably none of you hear me as precisely as we would be face to face together somewhere. But we can other type of noise within communication. For example, if somebody is not able to listen, nervous, something is his or her mind, and do not have enough effort to listen to the other person who would like to send messages. We also can have physical noise within the communication, and almost always we have feedback within the communication. Unfortunately, now I can't see you. I don't know if it is my fault that I can't project the slide, that I would see the participants, but if I remember well, I have got that message that I will not see you. So it is very difficult to get feedback in this situation. Otherwise, when we are face to face, we can read messages from nonverbal gestures which come from the other person, from the receiver. And it means that the sender-receiver role is very fast changing. So maybe in a moment I'm the sender, but when I want to get feedback, or when I observe the other person within a communication, I became the receiver within the situation. So that's generally, very briefly, what is happening in communication. But let's see it on a more detailed way. What is happening is in public speaking. What is public speaking? It is giving speech face to face to live audience. The goal of the speech may be to educate, to entertain, to influence the listeners. Good examples for public speaking, for example, a lecture within the university, political speech, actors, actresses also can give public speakings in certain situations. But we also can explain that a business presentation is kind of public speaking. So we have really many occasions when we have to, when we will be involved in public speaking. Very frequently, the size of the audience is bigger in public speaking. That's why it very frequently causes us nervousness. Even if somebody feels very familiar with communicating with friends or other people, one or two person together may feel frustrated to stand up in front of a bigger group of people and share his or her ideas. If I want to connect nonverbal gestures in this situation, the receiver is normally the audience, and also very frequently when we give a public speech, the communication is basically one way. So the speaker speaks, the audience listening. However, as I have already mentioned, if we see each other face to face, some kind of feedback can come from the audience. The noise in a public speaking situation is relatively high comparing to when I speak with only one person. And as I have mentioned, we have little feedback. The other person or the receivers can't communicate during the speech. Only after that, if there is a chance to raise questions or give comments. Okay, so let's see how I structured what I would like to share with you. It is kind of process, maybe not perfect, but when we have to give a public speech, the first step that we have to prepare for that occasion, we have to think it over. You will see soon where it will happen and so on. Then we have to develop the material, knowing to whom we would like to give the speech and where. And also I will explain the process, how we can open the speech, what is recommended in connection with the delivery of the speech, and what kind of recommendations is given about closing the speech. Let's see something about preparation. It is, again, very general. Anytime when we communicate, we can use these questions and answer first those questions and then begin communicating with others. But in case of public speech, it is, I think it is much more important. First of all, we have to answer the question why we would like to speak, we want to give a speech, want to talk. It is the purpose, the outcome. What is the purpose? We can have different purposes. We can give information. We may want to influence the others or persuade the others about something. Maybe the purpose is to entertain other people. Depending on what is the answer to this question, we have to prepare differently. Who will be the audience? Also important. The age group, males, females, adults, children, very many people, not so many people, how much they know about that topic, or what. Also, it's an interesting question to ask from ourselves. Does the audience know more about the topic than me? That's a very uncomfortable situation. Also, it's an interesting question. Are they our competitors? They want to criticize us because, again, that will influence how we have to prepare for that speech. What is the message, the content of our message? I will speak about that later. When we would like to give the speech, the talk. It's interesting, but it's an important question, the time of the day. We are not equally active in the morning, after lunch, in the afternoon. This time period is one of the best because early afternoon, relatively speaking, everybody is active. After lunch, everybody is, or generally speaking, we are sleepy. We are not able to concentrate so much. Then the length of the speech, it is also connected to that question. Also, that's an interesting question. We may think that speaking 2-3 minutes is not so difficult than speaking hours. But sometimes those people who give public speeches, they have an opposite opinion. They think that probably it's more difficult to give a shorter speech than a longer one. The place also, important question. It is in a lecture hall, in an informal place. It's somewhere I know well, or I have never been there. Now, as a result of the pandemic, we have very interesting situation that to that question where it is the virtual environment where we give the speeches. But that's also important. We have to know the place well, and if it is something new, we have never been there, we have to ask in advance about the place, and we have to arrive earlier when we give the speech to look around and try to reorganize the place to make it comfortable for ourselves. And how we would like to give the speech, the medium options, the tone, the style, also important questions what we have to answer before we begin to prepare the content of our speech. Now let's see how we can develop the material, or what we have to keep in our mind in connection with that. If we were able to answer the question why we would like to communicate, we already know the objective. Do I want to persuade the audience? Do I want to inform them? So it is very important to write down, to consciously know our objective, what why I am speaking, and it will also influence the information I have to collect. The next step will be to assemble the information, collect material, read things, read books, look around on the internet, what others told about that topic. And when we already have relatively many information about what we would like to speak, we have to group the information. That will help us to structure our speech. It's also important to put the information into a logical sequence. Depending on the topic, that logical sentence can be different. If I'm speaking about history, naturally it's logical to begin with the past and come closer. But if it is, if the topic is something else, then we have to find out a different type of logic in our speech. Next step will be that we have to produce a skeleton outline. We try to write down what will be the basic points within the speech. And then we have to begin to write the first draft, and then edit the rough draft and write the final version of our speech. Now you may have a question relating to that. Is it necessary to write down the speech? Not always. For example, now I did not write down my speech. I prepared a draft. I took it into a slide. So I have the main points, and I try to speak about that by heart. But it depends on the situation. Once, a couple of years ago, I was asked to give a speech to students on a diploma confirming ceremony. There I wrote down what I want to tell, and I read it. Naturally, it's important in those events to practice. You will see that it is always important to practice the speech, but I read that speech several times, many times, to try to tell it, not to show that I'm reading, but I do believe that it is that type of an occasion where it is too risky if somebody is not very familiar with that situation to speak by heart. I had a colleague who did it, who was very good in that, and wrote a draft even on those occasions, and he was able to speak well. He gave very good speeches, but I did not felt myself very comfortable. So it's up to you. You have to decide on that. I really recommend that first, when you will begin your first public speech, it's better to write down, practice it, and then try to speak by heart after practicing it. But it's good if you have the notes with you, and you can check where you are, and you will be able to continue that if you lose the line. Now, so we are ready with our speech. We know what we would like to tell to our audience, and how we will open the speech. We are there. I will come back later to the situation and give some recommendations, but let's see how the opening of the speech looks like. What are the important points here? Here it is important to have to create an impression and gain the attention and interest of the audience. That's why we have to choose very carefully how we open the speech. Also, another point that we have to choose an opening which fits to our personality and meets the expectations of the audience also. So, for example, if I'm not good at telling jokes, otherwise that would be a good idea to begin naturally an informal speech with a joke, but if I'm not good in that, it's better to avoid that. If we think that the audience will not be open for that, again, better to choose something else. We have a big variety, different ways to start, and it is not a total list. So probably the easiest when we begin with a statement of subject or title, but it is boring. It's not an interesting opening. Probably the audience know the subject or the title of the speech, so it is not the best beginning. We can begin with explaining the objective. Again, it depends on the situation, whether it's a good idea or not. For example, if we would like to persuade the audience, it's probably not the best solution to tell them that, look, I'm here because I would like to persuade you. So then it's again not, but we have occasions when it is not a problem if we really share with the audience why we would like to give that speech. Also, very common way to start a presentation or a talk when we begin with a plan of the talk. We explain how we will structure the speech. It is not bad because the audience will know, will follow where we are in that speech, and especially if they don't know in advance the length of the talk, then we will feel, okay, now we are somewhere in the middle or almost at the end. Depending on the situation, we can begin begin informally the speech. We can begin with a question, what we would like to answer. It's also possible to tell an anecdote, a joke at the beginning of the speech. Also very good idea to begin with facts and statistics, especially if we can share figures which is surprising to the audience about that topic. Or the one I have chosen today, a quotation. Naturally, we have to choose a quotation which fits to the topic of the speech, and it's good if we choose famous people who told those words. Okay, during the speech, how we have to deliver the speech. In textbooks about communication, we can read very many recommendations, and naturally we have to develop ourselves, try to do what is recommended to do. But I do believe that it is very important to remain ourselves, be yourself when you speak. The audience very easily observed when we play roles, when we are not sincere in the speech, when I'm almost sure you already observed situation when you felt that the speaker do not believe in what he or she is speaking, and also we can recognize that he learned that speech, and it is not he or she who speaks. Also important to keep eye contact with the audience, look at the audience. How we have to keep eye contact. Different cultures tolerate eye contact differently, but it is a way to keep connection with the audience. What is recommended to look at one person for 2 seconds, then move to the other person. So it's not a good idea to keep eye contact very long with one person. It's a frequent mistake that we keep eye contact with a person who is in high status among within the audience, or whom we think he or she is the decision maker. We never know who will influence that person. So it is the best if we try not to lose anybody. Especially if we, for example, use PowerPoint presentation, it is not possible to keep eye contact now. But why it is important? Because we can read from that, we can get feedback. We will see from the face of other people if they understand, if they agree, if they disagree, and we can prepare for that. Also very important to maintaining interest during the speech. It's not enough to begin with something interesting, but we have to try to maintain interest during the whole speech. How can we do that? What is recommended? Sincerity, as I have already mentioned. First of all, I haven't mentioned that when we accept an invitation to give a speech, we have to consider whether I can speak sincerely about that thing or not. Do I know things about that or not? So it's important to choose to give a talk or a speech if we really believe in that. Yes, it's important to speak about that, and I will do that. Enthusiasm is also important. If the audience see that that the speaker does not interested in that what he or she is telling, if they see that he or she is not believing in that, then they will lose their interest. They will not interested in the topic anymore. Power of speech, what does that mean? That we can change the speed, the volume of our words. We can emphasize things. We can repeat things if we feel it very important, and then it will be it will help us to maintain the interest of the audience. And simplicity also very important, especially if we are speaking about complex things. If we are familiar with that, if we know about that, we may feel that it is very simple. but that's not necessarily the case. The audience not necessarily feel that it is a simple thing. So that's why when we give the speech, we have to try to explain our ideas on a simple way, not in a very complicated way. And now I will show you several practical tips, techniques, what we have to use or what is useful to use during a public speech. It is also recommended to vary the length of sentences. If we write something down, it's also true. If we speak, it is also true. But it is recommended to keep the length of the sentences between 18-20 words as an average. So what does that mean? We should not use very short sentences and very long sentences. We have to use words what the audience understand. If we have to use something, a term which we think it is not understandable, then we have to define, we have to explain it first. That is the same with abbreviations. Very frequently use them, and other people not necessarily know what does that mean. We have to avoid hackneyed, frequently used expressions. Again, that makes a speech boring, and it will not be liked by the audience. I have mentioned that it in some situation it's not bad if we repeat the most important things in our speech, but we have to avoid needless repetition. We have to avoid unnecessary words. Almost all of us use certain words very frequently. The problem that it is very difficult to recognize that. So that's why it's not bad if we practice our speech and ask somebody to listen to us, and he or she will be able to emphasize that you use that word very frequently, or very frequently we use words which doesn't mean anything, just help us to think what will be my next sentence, and we save some time with that. Also, it is recommended to use sincere, positive words and active rather than passive voice. For example, in written scientific papers, passive voice is relatively acceptable, but in speech it is not so good. Okay, what kind of techniques we can use in the preparation? We have to practice our speech out loud. It's not enough to think about that in our head. It is also recommended to start to measure it with a clock how long it is, because we can control if it is too long or too short, what we would like to tell. We have to dress for the occasion. Generally speaking, it is recommended in a public speech to be a little bit formal, but definitely we have informal occasions when it is not, we have to take it not so seriously. We have to arrive early and warm up at the place where the speech will be. We have to set up the equipment, try it, start it, check it if it will work or not. Also, it's good we have to try the microphone if we have to use the microphone. If it is if that speech is in a big hall, we have to decide before the speech where we will stand. It is not recommended to stand behind a big table because that's a barrier between the audience and the speaker. But it makes public speak even or the situation will be very uncomfortable for the speaker in that situation. We have to keep the lights up, even if, at least at the beginning, even if we would like to show, for example, a video film, and it's better to turn on the lights, but at the beginning it's essential to that the audience have to see you. And for those who like to drink water or drink water frequently, especially for those, it is not bad if you have water available around you. It would be possible to speak a lot about nonverbal communication. Now I tell about that relatively shortly. We have to control our body during the public speech. Here you can see the explanation what kind of position we have to take. We have to start with that. We have to keep our hands loose at our side, knees and elbow relaxed. I try to show it. Now I'm not standing, but it is recommended to weight balanced on both feet. Sometimes we feel more comfortable if our weight is on our right or left feet, but it is very difficult to move from that position. That's why it is recommended to take weight into on both feet, and also it is recommended to that the feet shoulder widths apart. So we have to take our feet very close to each other and also not too far from each other. As I have already mentioned, we have to maintain good eye contact with the audience. Positive gestures, smile is also recommended, and we have to use body language. We can use it when we use gestures, but we have to be careful not to show very extreme gestures during the speech. We also have to practice and have to learn to use our voice effectively. We have to use relatively strong voice, so we have to speak to the back of the room. Otherwise, those who sit far from us will not hear us. We have to speak slowly, especially at the beginning of the presentation. We have to change our voice. We have to play with the tone, the speed, the volume, the pitch of our voice. we have to try to minimize verbal tics, and instead of telling that what I did now, we have to use pauses. So it's good if we are able to learn, remain silent instead of telling something when we are speaking. Finally, we have to close the speech. The effect of a speech, which is otherwise good, can be damaged by its close if it is not good enough. So it is recommended to remember the old adage on effective public speaking: stand up, speak up, shut up. Very frequently it is difficult to finish the speech, but we have to do that. How we can finish the speech? With a summary, with a question, what the audience will answer later. We also can finish with a story or an anecdote. We can recommend alternatives. If we wanted to persuade the audience, we can say that that's one alternative, that's another one. Try to choose between them. We can finish our speech with a dramatic way, if we are good in that, with incentive. Also, it is possible to finish the speech with fear or conscience pricking. However, it is not too positive, but we can say that if you do not take actions, maybe it will be later. So it depends on the topic what we covered during the speech. Now I decided to finish my speech with a quotation. If you can speak, you can influence. If you can influence, you can change lives. So that's why you have to practice public speaking. Thank you very much for your attention. And I have on the slide my references. I used 2 books to prepare this presentation.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I have enabled the question and answer session, and if anyone have any query, you can ask on it.
How we will know if there is question or not? The audience can write a message.
I have enabled the Q&A session, and if they have any question, they will type on Q&A, and it will be shared on the screen. I am waiting for you guys to ask any type of question. It will be really appreciated.
May I have a question? Is it the speech you expected from me?
Yes, that was I was expected. That was perfect for me. Yes.
Okay, thank you. While we are waiting, I can recommend a few things that on the internet you really can find lots of materials, recommendations, how you can prepare for public speaking, because I do believe that that is the reason why you organize that occasion to give recommendations to young people to practice that. And I recommend to first try in front of a smaller audience, and later you will be you will feel yourself more comfortable. Very frequently the problem that we are nervous to speak up in front of others, but we should not.
Ma'am, there is a question from Adam. He asked about what about the dress code of an online meeting? The question is asked from the chat.
Sorry.
The question is, what about the dress code? What about the dress code of an online meeting? I will recommend Adam to ask it on Q&A tab, but if you understand, you can answer him.
Yes, that's a good example, good question. It depends on the type of online meeting, but for example, now you see that however we are not on a face-to-face meeting, I try to wear a dress which is more formal. Your dress is perfect because you are the leader or member of this organization. So I do believe that it's an informal event. University lectures, I think the same dress code is okay, what we use every day, but I do believe it's not acceptable to wear too casual things, or when we do not wear so much clothes. Actually, it has happened in my one of our online meeting that somebody forget about that it was summer. He was in a short trousers and stand up in front of the computer, because we can think that only our face, what the others see, but if we do something unexpected things, then everybody will see us. I also saw, for example, my son works online, wear very casual clothes at home, but when they have meetings, he always wear the same clothes what he would wear if they would meet face to face.
Is another question from Donut. What is the best way to draw the attention of our audience?
Oh, sorry, I can't see it. You have got it? What is the best way to
draw the attention of our audience?
It is a very difficult question. It depends on the audience. As I try to explain, if we try to show during the speech that we really believe in what we are telling, we feel that it is very important, that can help. But if the audience does not interested in that topic, it is very difficult to keep their attention. I did not do that, but it would have been possible to try statistical data about the importance of that topic. Sometimes it is also possible to collect information which is shocking, and then maybe the audience begin to interested in that, or what will be the result of that, how that figure will be explained. If we know a little bit more about the audience, also can help in the preparation. But I don't think that we have a recipe how we can make them interested in the topic.
Much, ma'am, for your answer. Guys, do you have any other question to ask? Feel free to ask.
I think that that question is to you. Christina asks, thank you for the speech. In the invitation email you mentioned we can get a LinkedIn certification from this event.
Yes, you will get the certificate on your email that you have registered. We will send the certificate as soon as possible on the email address. You're welcome.
May I ask questions? Does anybody from the audience already was in a situation that he or she had to give public speech somewhere?
Is a question from Akosh Mandi. He asked, "Do you have some time? So do you have some tips for a shorter presentation?"
You ask some tips for
A short presentation.
a short presentation.
Yeah.
When we have to give a short presentation, do you mean a presentation at school? Or, okay, so first of all, when we have very short period of time, what is a short period of time? 3, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, very frequently, for example, at school, you have to give a short presentation. I do believe that to structure that, it is essential. So basically, what I can recommend that it's good to, you have to introduce yourself with one sentence. You have to maybe tell one sentence about the purpose why you are speaking. If it is totally clear, you should not do that. It is recommended to give the content, have one slide, for example, that I plan my presentation that way. If it is 10 minutes, you can do that. If it is shorter, you may not have enough time for that. As I have mentioned, you have to structure the speech. Important to have to involve the main message. So you have to figure it out what is important to share about that topic with the audience. And yeah, I don't know what type of short speech I can think about. I give you an example that a couple of years ago I taught communication, and I asked students to give a 3-minute speech about anything. Naturally, they did not have time for preparing a slideshow. So there, in that situation, they have to explain why they have chosen that topic, what is the objective of their speech. They would like to persuade the audience or inform the audience about something. Then they had to summarize the points of what they wanted to tell and somehow close the speech, why that topic was so important and why they think that making actions is important in connection with that. Very important, if we have to give a short speech, we have to practice that frequently with a clock, measure it. Am I long enough? Sometimes it's very difficult to calculate because we think that 10 minutes is short, but but we can tell relatively many things within 10 minutes. Okay, I don't know if it is enough or not.
I think it's enough. There is another question from Alexei. Alexei Buzrain. What should we do if we forget our speech once we were nervous? Any tips?
Yes, that's why it's good if you have notes with you. Or at the very beginning, it's not bad if you write down the whole speech. Okay, so if it is possible to use PowerPoint or project the material, it helps a lot because you see the structure. No problem if you forget one or two sentences, what you wanted to tell, but again, practicing help a lot. And I haven't mentioned one thing that that's also important, to try to control our nervousness. I don't think that you have ever learned about stress management, but it is stress when we are nervous. For a certain extent, it will improve our performance, but yes, you are right. It can happen that because we are too nervous, we forget about certain things. So it's good if we are able to control our nervousness. I do believe that we are probably, our nervousness is highest at the beginning of the speech. So it is recommended to control nervousness with some muscle movements. First of all, you have to do that with your arms and release it. Do that several times, and that will help you to not to show that that your body is moving. Also, get oxygen before you begin to speak. Help a lot because your brain will get more oxygen, and you can begin the speech with that. Then practicing having notes. I know that it's also problematic that if we have 10 pages, we are not able to follow where we are, but then we have to stop and find where we are and continue. Nothing happening if we stop for 10 seconds or 15 seconds. It is, I don't know, it depends on the situation. Maybe we can apologize. Sorry, I lost my thought. I don't remember where I am, but it's not recommended to tell excuses. We can stop, find it where we are, and go further.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And there is another question from Donat Tarnoshi. I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly. The question is, can too much practice be disadvantageous?
Sorry, on some.
Can too much practice can be disadvantages?
If we practice too much, you may be right. You may be right because I have a good example for that. It is not about public speech, but playing the piano. I don't know if you have ever learned music, and it is frequently happening that we practice, and after that we make more and more mistakes in that. Naturally, we have to stop doing that, but as soon as we feel familiar that, okay, now I I feel that I am able to give the speech, then we can stop practicing that. Naturally, if somebody feel that he's good at, he knows his thoughts and able to tell that without practicing, it is possible to try to do that. The problem very frequently, we hear presentations at school, for example, frequently, and what is very difficult to measure the length of the presentation. That's why it's not bad if we try to tell it once, two times, naturally not 100 times, especially if we have notes, if we can use a PowerPoint presentation. That's relatively easy because we know what we want to tell. What is the problem when we forget about what does that point means? But then we can skip that and go further.
Hopefully he get his answer. I don't think so. There is another question left. Like no one going to ask another question. So I'm very thankful and glad that you come here and you give us time to present the on public speaking. I'm very thankful to you.
Sorry, I can't hear you well.
Can you hear me now? I'm talking about I'm very thankful that you came here. I'm very glad. Like we are very honored. You gave us a lecture on public speaking. It was like very informative, and I hope all the attendees came here will learn a lot from here, and that will help them in their future life when they go to their career, and that will help in their uh, career, the public speaking. And I am very thankful to the attendees, those came here. And on that note, I'm going to end this event. Thank you so much, ma'am, to come here and give us a lecture. Do you have anything to say about today's uh, event? You can say, ma'am.
Thank you very much for inviting me. And yeah, I did not hear too much, but I do believe you finished that meeting now.
Yeah, I'm doing
Yes.
the
Thank
meeting.
you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very glad that you organize these type of occasions and that so many students joined to the meeting. That's very good. And I also recommend that I saw that there were Hungarian students present. Thank you very much. You can practice your English knowledge here.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you so much, ma'am. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye to all the attendees. Thank you for your patience and your come here and for thank you so much and bye.